Hi, everybody. It's Good Friday evening, and I was thinking as I was sitting down about what to say about Good Friday. I mean, we all know the stories. I was thinking about the time of day. It's 6:36 in the evening. You can see that the sun is still out, as you see the window behind me. And by this time of day, Jesus would have been in the tomb. The disciples would have been cowering in a room. It's believed that they went back to the same room where they had the Last Supper. Although that's not a historical fact, it's just an anecdotal assumption made by theologians. It was a safe place in the city where they met the first time. It was owned by, allegedly, Joseph of Arimathea, who actually happened to participate in the burial of Jesus, and it was a safe haven for them. But the interesting thing to me is all the stories about Good Friday. If you ever take a trip to Israel and you ask questions, the Jews over there believe that Jesus lived and that Jesus was crucified. They don't believe he's the Messiah, but they don't doubt that, which always makes me wonder why it is that some people actually doubt. Well, let's just start, since it's Good Friday, with the crucifixion of Jesus. There is documentation outside of biblical scholars of the Romans crucifying people. The time period when Pilate was governor of Judea lines up. Actually, when you go to Israel, if you're lucky, you get to go to Pilate's Mediterranean place. He had this little place on the Mediterranean. He had it built, of course, where he did not have to stay in Jerusalem. He hated Jerusalem. He hated the Jews. They were a bother to him. All he wanted to do was get back to Rome. As a matter of fact, in almost all the structures that Pilate had built, they all faced towards Rome. For example, at this resort, I'm going to call it a resort, and I forget the name, although I bet Michelle would remember. At this resort, he had a huge amphitheater, and one end of it was open. The open end pointed towards Rome. He built his house next to a seaway, next to part of the Mediterranean, and built a separate harbor. And the opening for the harbor was outlined in stones for his boat, pointed towards Rome. He had an underground passage to get to the boat in case he had to make a quick escape. That door in the passage pointed towards Rome. He had a porch, not screened in, not like us, but he had this huge porch which faced Rome. He built, oh my gosh, my words are leaving me tonight. We'll call it a racetrack, where they would race chariots. The stands overlooking this track faced Rome. All he wanted to do is go to Rome. And he would always write. He would write to the emperor and tell them what he did and tell them of the architecture and how it faced Rome. He was praising Rome. Everything was about Rome. So then why did he agree to crucify a man that he thought was innocent? That's a really good question. And the reason is, think about this. Okay. The chief priests and scribes and Pharisees want this Jesus killed. They do not want the blood on their hands. As a matter of fact, they are fearful that if they killed another Jew, and this attitude changes rather quickly, because they do stone, for example, Stephen, who was a Jew, but they called him not a Jew because he was following Christ, so they call him a blasphemer. And they tried to get away with it by calling Jesus a blasphemer, because Caiaphas asked him a question: are you the Son of God? Are you the Messiah? And Jesus' answer is, it is you who say that I am. So, anyway, getting back to Pilate. After the torture of Jesus, after all the questioning of Jesus, after the inability of them to find something that this man did wrong according to Roman law, you know the story how he has a prisoner named Barabbas, and he presents the two prisoners before the crowd. Now Barabbas was a rabble-rouser. Barabbas had actually attacked Roman troops. He was a rebel. He was a zealot. And he believed that only brute force would get rid of Rome in Judea. And he was scheduled for crucifixion. In Pilate's mind, the Jews know how bad he is, so they'll ask for Jesus. That way he doesn't kill an innocent man. Well, that's not what happens. Of course, you know the story. And the story fits because mob mentality. If you put, let's say you have a crowd of, 1,000 people, and you put 10 people in the crowd, and you have them programmed to say something, what'll happen usually is when a speaker asks a question, just like when I ask a question in church, most people sit quietly. You get these 10 people to say, Barabbas, Barabbas, Barabbas. Mob mentality. They go along with what they've been hearing. So, the chief priests being smart people, of course, they set it up that way. The other interesting characteristic is, even if he wasn't buried by this time, yes, it's still light outside, they were very close to burying him. But I found some interesting archaeological facts. In the tombs that have been discovered from the time of Jesus, they've discovered, what did they say, 90 tombs? I was reading through this archaeological digest because I want to make sure I had my facts straight. Out of the 90 tombs they found, only 4 had circular stones. The others had stones that were kind of shaped like a square with a cork on the end. And what they would do is they would have to lift and jam that cork into place. And that would seal the tomb. And then, of course, there was the Roman seal on there, which the chief priests asked for. So, Passover starts at sundown. They get Jesus into the ground. And the only people that accompany Joseph and Nicodemus as they are preparing the body for burial are their servants or slaves and the women. All of the disciples have deserted Jesus. They have all run away and sought shelter elsewhere because they are afraid for their lives. And they are cowering in these places. And that is where we'll find them on Easter Sunday. Now, for those of you that have been watching, I know that this isn't usual because I'm not telling my jokes like I usually do just to get you going and get you into it. But that's because I didn't want to take up too much time. But on Easter Sunday, I will be at the church. Now the church is still closed, but I will do my Easter service from the church. I can't quite do it on Facebook Live because that would mean bringing somebody else in that would have to hold the camera or hold my phone while I did it. And you know, I can be windy sometimes and a lot of words, so they'd be holding a phone for 20 minutes. But I will definitely make a tape and I will definitely put it up on this website. And I plan on being there at the regular time, which is 10 o'clock. And doing my service for you and for me at that time. Incidentally, you can feel free to share the link that Connie sends you of these videos with anyone you want to. May God bless all of you. I wish you peace of mind. I wish you health. And you can rest assured that I'm praying for each and every one of you and praying for all of our healthcare workers every day, every morning, and every night. I know Paul says pray without ceasing, but I still have my regular job and I have to do things while I'm there. Good night.